If you want to learn how to win at roulette, you're in the right place, because in this video, I'm going to teach how to play roulette, and then I'm going to teach some winning strategies on how to make money at roulette. Let's go. Hey everybody, it's Puzzling Games. Maybe you've seen my other videos that have to do with casino games like poker and blackjack and craps and baccarat. And in this one, I'm finally getting around to teaching a super simple game to learn, and it's roulette. This video is broken into 3 parts. Part 1 is how to play, which is actually fairly simple. Part 2 is I'm just going to go ahead and play some basic rounds of roulette. And Part 3 is I'm going to teach some winning strategies on how to properly bet to win at roulette. So let's get going. What you're looking at is a layout of an American roulette table. There are 36 numbers, 1 through 36. Some are red, some are black. There's also these 2 green zeros, a single 0 and a double 0. In the European version, there's only 1. It's just a single green 0. In America, there's 2. And then on the outside here, you see all kinds of things that say even, odd. There's a black diamond or red diamond, first 12, second 12, third 12, 1 through 18, 19 through 36. All of this stuff, which I'm going to get into in a second. And the bottom, you see, I have my casino chips. The 1 through 36 that you see is called the inside. And everything here, the first 12, even, odd, and even this stuff here on the right, this is all called the outside. Now, in the inside, you are betting on numbers 1 through 36, but I'm going to get into some detail on how that works. On the outside, you're sort of betting bigger parameters. Now, if you're playing in inside bets, you go up to the table, you actually might give them a bunch of money in exchange for a very unique color that is only your color. Every person playing is given a different color, and those are the chips that you're going to use to place inside bets. If you're just a casual person going by and you got regular poker chips from that casino in your hand and you want to go ahead and just throw money on, say, odds or evens or something, you can do that. The colored chips are for the people who are really there to stay and who are really looking to place a lot of multiple bets, because it'll get confusing to the dealer, called the croupier, who needs to understand who placed what bet on which number so they can make those payoffs. You basically are going to lay down 1 chip, 2 chips, 10 chips, 20 chips, as many chips as you like, on all different kinds of bets, and then the wheel's going to spin and you'll find out what you made the money on and what you didn't. Now, every bet has a different odds, and I'm about to go over the odds later on in this video as well. But I think the most important thing I have to do is explain the different types of bets. So a straight up bet is just when you bet on a number. So for example, this number 7, you see how that went shaded? I bet $1 on number 7. Then there's something called split bets, and that's where you're actually using 1 chip to bet on 2 adjacent numbers. So that same 7 and 10, if I was to go here, I now have 1 chip on 7 and 10. The next thing is called the street, and that's when you want to bet on an entire row of 3 numbers. So let's go back to that 7. I could go 7, 8, and 9. When the chip is like that, it means that entire row of 3 is the bet. Next is going to be called the corner. Well, that is 4 corners. So if I was to say put it right there, it lights up. You can see 4, 5, 7, and 8 is the bet. If any of those 4 come up when the wheel is turned, you'll win. Different percentages, though, if you're covering 4 versus 1 versus 2 versus 3, because the odds are changed depending on each bet, which we'll get into in a second. There's also the double street, which is where you bet on 6 numbers in 2 horizontal lines. So let's go back to that. So that's a double street. As you can see, there's 6 numbers that we're betting on. There's also the trio, where you can bet on 3 numbers that include the 0 and the double 0. So in this case, it could be, say, the 2, it could be the 1, it could be the 3, it could be the 2, 1, and 0, it could be the 2, 3, and 0, and you can see how that works. And then in America, there is a bet called the basket, where you can bet on 0, double 0, and 1, 2, 3 simultaneously. I suppose it now would be a good time to say that you really have to check each casino, because they all might have slightly different rules in terms of how much you can put down and different ways to play. But for the most part, these rules will apply to 99% of any roulette table that you go to in a casino. Before I go ahead and lay some money down, I might as well get through the payoff chart. And this is where the casino has the edge, because even though there's 1 through 36, on the wheel there's still a 0 and there's a double 0. So in fact, there's 38 little pockets on the wheel, and your odds, if you say were to put money here on this 7, your odds are 1 in 38 of getting it, but it doesn't pay 1 in 38. In fact, it's a little different with every casino. Most casinos will pay 35 to 1 for a straight up bet. And while I'm at it, here's the whole chart of how it pays. So a split bet, which is between two numbers, is 17 to 1. A street, which is the three numbers, 11 to 1. A square, 8 to 1. Double street, which is those six numbers, 5 to 1. A trio, 11 to 1. And the basket, which, like I said, is very rare, but that is 6 to 1. So then let's talk about these other ones, these outside bets here. And they're pretty self-explanatory. There's red and black. If you were to put money on the red, all red numbers would win. Same with the black. All black numbers would win. And the great thing about that is that it pays 1 to 1. So if you put $1 on the red and you got red, you'd get the $1 back. But remember, you could also get a green 0 or a green double 0, in which case you would lose. That's how the casino gets its edge. And all of these bets on the bottom are 50-50 bets. The red is a 50-50 bet. The black is a 50-50 bet. Evens are 50-50 bets. Odds are 50-50 bets. 1 through 18, which is the first half, is a 50-50 bet. And 19 through 36 is a 50-50 bet. Now let's talk about the ones on the right. Now this is the column ones. This is one that plays an entire row, or in this case, 12 numbers. And you put it there, and now you're playing that entire row. Here you could be playing an entire second row, entire third row. The next thing we'll talk about is what I call the dozens, which is, they call them here the first 12, the second 12, and the third 12. Well, there's 3 dozen here. So 1 through 12 is the first dozen. It pays 2 to 1, the second dozen, and the third dozen, which is 25 to 36. And there really isn't much more to know about that in terms of how to play. Let's play a few rounds, and then let's talk about a betting strategy. So I'm just going to play with $5 chips, and I'm going to maybe put $15 on red. I'm going to put chips down on my birthday. I'm going to put chips down on my favorite age that I was. And I'm going to put chips down on my kids' birthdays. But you know what? And then I'm just going to go ahead and place a bet on the odd too. And I'm going to go ahead and hit spin. Here it goes. And as you can see, the ball goes clockwise, but the wheel goes counterclockwise. So the number is 10. And it's also black. So anywhere that I would have won those chips. Ironically, I bet on red, I bet on odds, and I didn't put anything down on that 10, so I didn't win anything. Let's try again with some more chips. And this time, let's go ahead and play those 4. Let's play these 4. Let's play $10 on that. Let's also bet the 19 through 36, and let's also put a bunch of money on just the greens. And now let's spin again and see how we did. The ball goes clockwise, the wheel goes counterclockwise, and it settles on 26. How did we do? Well, 26 was the number, but we did collect a little bit because we had bet on 19 through 36. And if you look up here on the left, and this is very common in casinos, we won with 26. The previous bet was 10. The previous bet before that was 36. And it kind of lets you see what the last several bets are. Some people believe in streaks. I don't, but that's the way it works. So let's go ahead and talk about betting systems. And there are some great videos on YouTube where people who are excellent roulette players talk about how they can make the odds work in their favor. And I can put some links to some of those videos. This isn't my favorite game in a casino. I play craps. You've maybe seen my craps videos. If you haven't, you should check them out. If you haven't seen my baccarat video, you should check it out. I also have one on Payouts. I also have one on Texas Hold'em. And so there is no best right or wrong way to play play on roulette. So I just want to say that right off the bat. But I have seen scenarios where people can bet in such a way that they literally can maximize 90% of the numbers on the board in such a way that when they do go ahead and win 90% of the time, they're making money. So I want to go ahead and just show you a couple of those betting strategies. There are other betting strategies that aren't about where to place the numbers, but they are about betting systems. For example, I have a video called the Martingale betting system, a system that says you place money on a bet, and every time you lose, you double. And then you double again, and then you double again until you win. Eventually you win, and then you go back to your original early bet. And the idea is that no matter how many times you lose, as long as you keep doubling until you win again, you will always win back your losses. So it's a very slow-moving system to make money, but it is true that it never loses as long as you have pockets deep enough to ride out any losing streak. So let's go ahead and learn a couple of these bets. One of the ways to bet, which I know is called the Romanovsky system, requires you to put 3 times your bet on the first 12, 3 times your bet on the second 12, this therefore already covering 2/3 of the numbers, and then a corner between 26, 27, 29, and 30, and then 31, 32, 34, 35. In this way, you have covering all but 4 of the 36 numbers. You don't have the 0 or the double 0. So for an example of that, let's go ahead and bet $6, $6, $2, and $2. So for a bet of less than $20, you have a high probability of winning 86.5% of the time, with some sort of return on investment. And I'm going to only discuss the American version now, the one with the double 0. The one with the single 0, actually, which is the European one, actually even has better odds. For each $6 dozen bet, which you have the first dozen and the second dozen, you will get $18 profit if that comes through. And for each corner bet, you'll also get back $18 profit if each of those come through. So for a $16 bet, all you need is one of them to come through, and you're $2 ahead. And that's how we play roulette. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, check out all my other casino videos, as well as all my other puzzle games, board games, card games. And if there's a game that you want me to teach or talk about, drop me a comment. Also, just a reminder, if you want to learn how to play bridge, I have another channel, Puzzling Bridge, where I teach just the game of bridge. Super simple. Thanks, everybody.